It's Mercury's officially stationed. Are we still recording? Yeah.
That would be
You
the
never
funniest.
know. Because I
We would
mean,
just have to talk again for a couple
I know.
of.
Well, hello everyone. I am Eric Beach, and thank you for being here. I am so excited to talk to both of you, two of my colleagues from Nightlight Astrology and fellow Libra Risings, Arin Dosch and Marjorie Cotrell. How are you guys?
I'm well, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, I today I'm so excited. We're gonna be talking about 2026 transits, not all of them, but just three or a few of our favorites for fellow Libra risings by Libra risings. Today, again, we're gonna be covering a quick overview of Jupiter in Cancer, and we will also cover the nodal axis shift from Virgo into Leo and Aquarius and Jupiter's entrance into Leo, and lastly, Venus retrograde in the fall. Are we retrograding already? Okay. Please don't. Mercury,
There it
Mercury
is.
is stationing, so
Yes. Yeah, we should have said that as a
As
disclaimer.
we
We
speak.
we are
Yep.
we are gathered here under a Mercury stationing retrograde. We should have said that as a
As
disclaimer.
we
We
speak.
we are
Yep.
we are gathered here under a Mercury stationing retrograde in
and
our third
we're
house.
in our third house, and we're
Mhm.
slightly frightened, but we're open, I think, right?
I think so. And, we are like, we haven't talked in a while. So it is like a talk with like old colleagues, old friends,
I was just
a
thinking
sister
that.
from another mister
Mhm.
in the third house, right? So I think it works.
I
Yeah,
agree.
yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah, where's Jupiter? Here we go. Where's Cancer? I was trying to, let's see if we can try to put it.
Libra rising.
Yeah, right?
Because
This
that's
is
how our
this
brains
is.
might think. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, let's see. I hope. Let's do that
by hour.
hour. What
Yeah.
are we? Capricorn. So, oh, good. You're working with me. You're working with me. All right, let's leave it at 22. All right, 22
I like
degrees.
that.
Yeah.
The moon's up there too. I like that.
Mhm.
Yeah. Look at that. A moon Jupiter conjunction. And that was, yes, that's for tomorrow. So that's going to be lovely. But we have Jupiter at 25 degrees of Cancer, in which we've had Jupiter there now for since June of last year. And we'll talk about a little bit about what that's kind of been like for us, just as in general, Jupiter and Cancer. And for me, I know that I think I had a misunderstanding. I was kind of looking for something, I don't know, because it's exalted. So I think I was hoping for something different, but I've really learned so much about Jupiter and Cancer in this last year. And and I know for most of us Libra risings, it's been a lot about our vocation, career, our public image, whether you have a midheaven there or not. Um, and uh, and also kind of where we have the moon natally. I think that's also kind of where it's also been expressed a little bit for each of us, I think. Um, and and I think that if there's a few words that I can say about Jupiter and Cancer in the last, I would say the last 6 months, is there's been this like overprotective quality to the nature of Jupiter that it's taken. And not just overprotective, but also um, this nurturance that has been taking in some part of our lives, whether it's the 10th house or where there is the moon, right? The rulership of our 10th house of Cancer. Um, yeah, what do you guys think?
I think this is the perfect time to talk about this because Jupiter is stationing retrograde as we speak, also along with Mercury in Jupiter's sign. So this is kind of a check-in. He's here towards the end of the sign. So we've experienced the majority of his transit one time. We've gotten a flavor. I completely agree with you that it's textbook glorious, right? And full disclosure, I keep my Venus at 13 Cancer. So that's my ascendant ruler as a Venus rising. So I've gotten some juice out of this for sure. I've gotten a number of opportunities, people kind of out of the blue wanting to collaborate with me, primarily other women, right? Like you ladies. And I have her there in the middle decan of Cancer too. And I always think of that's associated with the Three of Cups. And you have the three babes with their chalices. And I always end up in situations like that with two other amazing women doing projects. So anyway, I've seen, a highlight of that sort of thing in my life. Jupiter's there sort of reminding me what my Venus does, which is nice. But it's also, I mean, Jupiter, Venus together, the cheese, the chocolate, the wine. This is how I've been getting through 2025. And that's not all, fun and games. There is such a thing as too much of a good thing. And then what I've also noticed is I do myself feel a strong desire for security. 2025 has been hard, I think, for a lot of us on our sense of security and stability with so much in flux. And I want to cling like a crab claw to the little security that I have left in my life. And reminds me, I also have full disclosure moon in Capricorn, and it reminds me, I live on this axis, and it reminds me of how it's hard to be soft. It reminds me of how elusive a work-life balance is, especially when I have the moon in Capricorn. Um, yeah, so it's been a lot of it good, but a lot of reminders of, as a Libra, how important balance is in my life too, and moderation. Um, and trying to walk that tightrope as always, living that Libra life.
Yeah,
What about
that's
you, Marjorie?
beautiful.
What kind of juice have you gotten out of this?
It has been juicy for sure. So I guess I'll start with, for me, the Jupiter in Cancer transit. I felt maybe a little more excited for it than I should have been. I should mention I have a Cancer sun. So this has really activated a lot in my life. But for me, the moon is in Cancer today as well. So I'm feeling extra emotive. I should mention full disclosure. But for me, most of my life as an adult is really learning how to navigate my career ambitions and motherhood. And this year has really brought a lot of that, a lot of what I thought I had worked through back up to the surface for me. And my caretaking role as a mother, has really kind of gone on overdrive with some health stuff for one of my children. So a lot more appointments, a lot more worry, a lot more concern as a mother has really permeated these Cancerian waters for Jupiter in my experience. But simultaneously, as my life, unfolds, my moon is in the third house of Sagittarius, along with a stellium, and I'm a writer. So this has kind of been a fun period for me too, where one of my recent projects, a book I had written on hosting retreats and workshops, kind of as like an ode, like a an ode to joy, to living in these times and really bringing people together in a joyful way as an act of resistance. I finally kind of like scraped all my time together and got these words written down to inspire people to gather in meaningful ways. So that has also been my Jupiter in Cancer transit, where I finally, finished the transcript and sent the proposal off just a few weeks ago to some publishers. And I don't know what's going to come of it. I'm hopeful, I'm buoyant, I'm joyous, but I don't know. It's kind of like you just send it out into the world and you don't know what's going to happen. And just the fact that I completed it and I have it, and maybe I'll do something else with it if it doesn't get published, but that has been a really exciting chapter in this story for me as well. And then I guess a, a sister to that project is kind of rebranding my work as an astrologer, but also as a teacher and a retreat host and somebody who just loves to bring people together. The rebranding of my company, which is the Shell Consulting, which is very Cancerian in nature. The reason I picked that name was because we Cancers like to go into our shell to retreat, and I want the experience for when people to work with me to be one that they feel held in a container. Like my office where I am is on the third floor. We live in an old house, and I call this my shell. Like when I come up here, I just am in my little safe space, and that's the work that I want to bring to the world. Eventually, I'd like it to be like a brick and mortar space. But for now, it is, online learning and me going out into my community and teaching people about finding their purpose through astrology. So, a lot of this work for me has been toiling away, Jupiter in Cancer, toiling away at articulating the messaging of the shell for me. So it's been a lot of stuff as we all kind of anticipated. The caretaking and the worry and the mothering stuff has really trumped all of it, and the writing and the shell cultivation has been in the margins. But it's all been there together. So that's what it's been like for me.
I was going to ask you ladies if either of you were working on a book because of the astrology for us as Libra Risings. Yeah, that's totally something that could happen. Congratulations.
Yeah. And it
Thank you.
just like, makes complete sense, right? As to how everything like with um Mercury retrograding, ruling the ninth, right? But it's in the third house. So that's and I can relate to both of you as to, experiencing Jupiter in Cancer. I have, in regards to caretaking, I don't have children, but my mom was diagnosed with cancer. So I've been taking her to her weekly chemo. She requires a 3-hour weekly chemo. So, that I wouldn't say that's exactly fun. And so we've been doing that. So I guess you could say there's a caretaking, right? Nature, full disclosure, I have the moon in Aries in the seventh house. So there's this, Saturn and Neptune are kind of working their magic right there. And, kind of seeing this fighting warrior mama slash uh caretaking, right? So on her end, seeing her fight, and then me on the caretaking, helping her. Well, that's emotional, right? And also, the moon, Jupiter in Cancer, right? A lot has, with the home and family, right? The moon, and um, not to talk about politics, but with the political climate, right, that's happening, there's, it hits a little home for me knowing that, I'm from Mexico, I'm a US citizen, but it's still being a Latina, Mexican American, it hits close to home. So there's been a lot of that kind of things that I've been dealing in the public, right? Not me necessarily, but all of us experiencing this. And again, that protective quality, and then nurturing, right? With trying to nurture myself, the body. The moon rules over the body too. So, uh, and one thing I think that's important to look at is it's Jupiter. What houses Jupiter rules, right? So it rules our third house and our sixth house. And for me, the sixth house, I really have uh, learn how to, I would say, nurture my own body with the sixth house, with my marathon journey, I guess you could say, that I've been on the last year. And it kind of just has completely changed the person I am just in life. And so not just in the physical body, but I have, full disclosure, I have Jupiter in the first in Libra. So, that also makes sense. I think it's always good to look at the houses that Jupiter rules at and wherever also Jupiter is in your chart, right? To get context um and so I guess there in a sense too, I've been going into my shell with Jupiter and Cancer when it comes to like a career, right? And my job, but it more so just planning, right? So planning our get-togethers here or future podcasts or future collaborations. There's, kind of just more taking it slow and writing things down, right? And planning and making sure I'm not trying to sprint anywhere. Uh, I know it's just trying to put, everything into marathon. It really it just with everything there's just it helps with everything in life. But anyways, I digress. But yeah, I that's kind of been my experience, I think, with Jupiter in Cancer. And now that Jupiter will be going, shifting, hopefully that all of that shifts for all of us, right?
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, I think it's been highly tender. And yeah, I wear my heart on my sleeve. The thing about being a Libra rising, we are so, justice minded and fairness minded. And part of why is because we have Cancer in the 10th house and we just care so dang much, right? We just want to take care of other people. Um, and yeah, Jupiter, you know, I agree. Like he has something to say about health in our charts, for sure. And I have Jupiter in the 12th natally, so he definitely, it's the whole axis thing. He definitely has something to say to me. But like wherever he goes, he brings wisdom. I
Mhm.
think. And I think part of what he's pointing out to me, conjoining my Senate ruler is, yeah, about health and taking care of myself, and also the ways in which I overgive to others
Mhm.
and take responsibility for other people and try to mother grown adults who aren't even asking for that. Right. And then
Yeah.
Saturn-Neptune is over there in my seventh going, you have poor boundaries. But that's a whole other
But that
story.
it makes sense with because Jupiter is at the top of our charts, right? It's squaring
Mhm.
our ascendant. It's
Mhm.
squaring our voice, essentially, right? And
Yeah.
the other. And so there's this like, T square, whatever you want to call it. But, Jupiter is squaring, right? The ascendant. And so I think that's kind of, maybe perhaps I was like, like I was excited. I was like, oh, this is going to be abundant and,
Yeah.
expansion. And yeah, it
And it
expanded.
is. It has
It
been.
is.
And also,
Yes.
yeah.
Mhm. I
Yeah.
like the connection you were making, Erica, to the sixth house, obviously, because Jupiter rules our third and our sixth. But it really brings in, our daily toil and service and caregivers as an act of service for other people when we tie it to the sixth, but then also when we connect it to our third house, thinking about like daily routines and zipping around our community and just all of those extra things that, oh, that'll only take 1 second, or sure, I can do that and I can do this. And then all of the sudden, our calendars are packed. And it's not that we don't want to do these things. It's very much a part of our being. But it can make us feel submerged and underwater with Jupiter and Cancer.
I love that
Yeah.
connection. I love the
Guilty.
connection though but that you put together between the third and the sixth that makes also that Libra that overcommits. I didn't even think about it. Oh wow, it's that overcommitting, right? That
Mhm.
that that happens with expansion that happens
We
with
say
Jupiter.
yes to everything.
Oh
And I
yes.
think with Jupiter in our 10th, it's like I know I've found myself, well, I'm not gonna pass on things. I'm going to say yes to all these opportunities because
Hmm.
that's what time it is, you know? It's
Mhm.
opportunity time with Jupiter up there. But yes, very easily and quickly, guilty as charged. My calendar is a pretty insane
Yeah.
now because
But
because
you
I
made a
said yes
great,
to everything.
yeah, but you made a great point about that it is that time and opportunity
Mhm.
that because it is Cancer, right? There has been a lot of that behind the scenes work, right? And in I think when you know Jupiter rewards. So I think what we have been nurturing, right? Whatever we've been, there will be some wisdom, some reward, right? With that, this Jupiter in Cancer transit, I think
Mhm.
that was
Yeah.
a nice connection.
For
Yeah,
sure.
I like that. And even I'm not at Nightlight anymore, but my year that I was there last year was so rich. And like that was when Jupiter was going through Gemini for me in my ninth house. And it
And
was
we
a
miss you, by the way.
oh,
We
thanks.
do.
I miss you guys too. And it was such a time, like I was just steeped in like so much wisdom from Adam and the students and all of you guys. And it was so rich. And now that Jupiter, has gone through my ninth house and I've had that experience now in my practice, like my practice and seeing clients is just so much more rewarding and there's so much more depth and nuance from that passage through the ninth house. So I kind of am thinking about it, as we progress and Jupiter goes into our 11th and we see it move into Leo. I think of like pride and confidence from, this 10th house period where we've gotten these opportunities and we've built these connections. And now, like, how do we take them out into the community? What's our vision with them? And what kind of pride do we carry? And how do we hold that confidently for this next transit?
And I think this is a perfect segue into Jupiter in Leo. And like a good mercurial person, I'm
Yeah.
shifting
Did you get where I was
gears.
going with that? Yeah.
I did, yes. So let me
I
pull
was
the
like, wow,
chart.
look at Marjorie in this
Love it.
graceful segue.
Well, I have Mercury in Gemini, so I'm normally a lot more scattered. So I'm kind of like just leaning into this station today because I need some slowness. So I'm liking it. Yeah.
That
Yeah,
makes
I
so much
am.
sense to me that you have Mercury and Gemini.
Yeah.
I know she's just her Mercury just trines our ascendant. So, can you guys see the Jupiter in Leo?
Yes. Hmm.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm really excited for Jupiter in Leo. Um, because again, I think just what we were talking about, there's been something that we've been seeding, I feel, right? And anybody that's part of our nightlight community knows that Adam always uses Cancer is the gateway of mankind, right? And we hear that often, right? It's the birth chart of the universe. It's the thema mundi, right? And so it's essentially it's something new. It's seeding, right? It's very fertile, and there's there has been this growth, I feel like, for us in our shell, whether people have been seeing it or not, or we've been taking care of something. And so now that Jupiter's going to be shifting on June 29th, 2026, I think that there's going to be that's going to start to come into visibility, right? We're putting Jupiter in. Oh, let me shift this again to Libra rising. I apologize,
That's okay.
but it's Mercury is stationing. So, oh, did I
It's
pass it?
like it's like a
Oh,
workout
there
for
it
the
is.
brain when it's in different places, but it's just so nice when it's the view that we're used to.
Oh, it must have gone quickly. Oh my gosh.
So this will put
There we
it.
go. Okay. But, well,
That's
okay. I'll leave it
okay.
there. You guys get
Yeah.
it. Okay.
We could
You
just
get it.
fast forward one day. That
Yeah,
would
I got
probably
one
do it.
Oh, there
day.
we go. Oh, I hate when it does that.
2 days.
Okay, can we
We're good.
I have
We
an
know.
That's
idea.
fine.
No, no. My Virgo is gonna kick in. Please hold. Did we do it? No. Ah, you know what? I'm gonna just do the 30th
Yeah, let's
because
do
it'll
that.
be done by then. It doesn't have to be the exact time. Okay,
I
there
like
we
There
go.
you go. Perfect.
Okay. All right. Um, so it's by mid-June, right? We have Jupiter finally going into the 11th house. And obviously we always talk about, I think everyone always gets excited for Jupiter, but I'm really excited for Jupiter because Jupiter rejoices in the 11th. And why not, right? It's going to be a nice superior sextile to our ascendant. And Uranus is going to be doing some action there as well from the ninth house. So I just feel really excited for Jupiter in Leo, especially if any of you guys are in a 11th house profection year, um, or in a actually a third or a sixth house perfection year because Jupiter is your time lord. So this I think will be extra potent as well as if you're a day chart where Jupiter is the benefic of Set, right? And so
Mhm.
obviously everyone will have benefits of Jupiter, right? But you could probably see things that might be more outward expressed or inward and, there's really, I mean, there's really no dignity, I believe, in Jupiter and Leo, right? It's just, it's
Mhm.
happy there,
Triplicity.
triplicity, but there's a nice, yeah, uh, the
Bound.
they're both it's my gosh, Mercury, what's the
Yeah.
word, anyways, so um but yeah, that's one of the reasons why I'm super excited. And the fact that whatever has been going on in our 10th house is going to be seeing its effects in the 11th. The sun, right, is a solar expression. It's visible, and it's creative. And in our 11th house, I think there's going to be perhaps more collaborations, um, um, or even some collaborations that have been happening could be growing, alliances, new people coming in, new mentors, I think, as well. And I'm just really excited with that, especially that if you notice, the nodes are going to be shifting a few days after into Leo, which is going to be supporting I think there's going to be a connection there um
Yeah,
with
that
this.
access will really be
Yeah.
built up.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what do you guys think? What do you notice with this nice ingress?
Well, with it going into the 11th for us Libra Risings, it just gives me like vision board feelings. Like just sitting and taking time to really draw up in your mind what is it that you want? What do you desire? What are you moving towards? And then noticing, what's across from it. We see Pluto down there in the fifth. It'll hit the opposition to Pluto across the 11th and the fifth axis. That makes me think of possibly like creative intensity, like an explosion of ideas, something that could be really fun to watch. If you're kind of gestating on the creative process in any way, shape, or form, how you take a risk and share it with your people or like bring it out into the world. So I'm curious to watch that one.
For sure. I think the 11th house, the house of good spirit, the joy of Jupiter, it's an incredibly benefic and positive house. Second, perhaps only to the fifth, which I think is debatable anyway. As an 11th house Leo sun, I think it's debatable. There's a lot of buoyancy to be had in the 11th. I always think about how the 11th is actually rising, right? As the day goes, it's actually progressing towards the MC, towards the midheaven, towards the highest point in the sky. And how that coincides with like, when you're expecting something good and like the buildup is often almost better than the event itself because
Mhm.
once it happens, it pops off, it's like, oh, it's over. It's
Yeah.
the excitement, the anticipation, right? As I'm thinking Rocky Horror, Tim Curry, the anticipation of the thing. And that's part of what the 11th house is about. It's also about friends, benefactors, groups of like-minded people, an audience. I know one of the classic examples is always Kurt Cobain with the exalted Jupiter in Cancer in the 11th house, and his audience is so dedicated, even still, like what, 30 years after his death. But I think an even more fun example to think about with this, a chart that I was looking at while I was preparing to speak with you ladies, is a fellow Libra rising celebrity, and that's Chevy Chase. And complicated fellow, right? And we can see that in his chart. But one thing that he has going on, I think he's the perfect example of just how benefic the 11th house is, and specifically how benefic the sun and other Leo people are to Libra rising people. Because what Chevy has going on is he has Jupiter at 20 Leo, Pluto at 8, the North Node at 14. So sorry, he's got Jupiter, North Node, Pluto, and then the MC, all in Leo. And then he has the Sun, which is, of course, the ruler of Leo, in the first, which is in fall in Libra, but still in the first. And if you look at his life, he benefited so much from friends. I mean, that's really what got him involved first in the National Lampoon like radio hour. And then that led to SNL. And like a good Libra rising, he bailed on that and moved across the country with his girlfriend. Um, but then he had a few marriages, like like a good Libra rising there. And like there's other complications in his chart, but he also has the moon down in Aquarius. So he lives sort of on this axis too. If you like, what he was best friends with Paul Simon, I think, for quite a long time, and he was in a music video of his. He was in a movie literally called The Three Amigos, right? The Three Friends, with real life friends.
I love that
Um,
movie.
so there's just like so much of like the goodness that he got out of life and his career. And we should also think about the 11th as being second from the 10th. So money that's coming from career, the goodness that's coming
Mhm.
to us from our work in the world. It came to him through friends, through benefactors, through other people who believed in his work and believed in him.
I love that, Erin. That I have Venus in the 11th at 16, and it's a superior trine to my 17-degree ascendant. And as you were speaking, it just reminded me so much of so many people who have helped me, particularly
Me
women,
too.
and have just been this like incredible support system and gave me so much hope. And another Jupiter word just to help me stay buoyant throughout so many
Hmm.
things. So yeah, there's so many riches in the 11th house.
Yeah. And to your point, it is this axis, the fifth, 11th, that's about creativity and then audience or performing it out into the world. And of course, we see that with Chevy's life. He's kind of, he's an actor and a comedian, the epitome of that. With the moon involved, I think it's funny to think about how slapstick he was and like what a physical comedian he was, like the pratfalls and stuff. Um,
Well,
but
he's a sun in Libra,
anyway,
you said, right?
yes,
That
he's
that would
also
make
sun in Libra.
sense, right? Very first
In
house,
fall,
very, very facial, very
well,
expressive,
literally
right?
fall, like
Yeah,
prat fall, and the sun is in fall in Libra. That's just too funny. Astrology is so
yeah,
literal
yeah.
sometimes. Um, but anyway, as Libras, with Pluto transiting Aquarius and the aspects that it's making with Uranus and Saturn, Neptune, I think we're really being called, probably for the whole 20 years that Pluto is in Aquarius. If you have children, it's going to transform your relationship with them for sure. But I think we're also being called to be more creative and put our creative babies, whether those are literal babies or books or podcasts or, projects, art out into the world and inevitably allow it to meet an audience up there in the 11th. And I think K2 is going to, Austin Coppock, one of my two teachers, because I have Gemini in the ninth house, will tell you that the nodes always cast shadows. So they're always going to complicate things. It's definitely going to bring an emphasis to this axis. And I wonder about, it's actually going to be my nodal opposition too, so I don't mind it. I think it may be
Oh, me
balancing.
too.
Yeah. Yeah, because we're close-ish to
Yeah.
the same age, aren't we?
Yeah.
But I wonder, um, and I don't know how you two feel about when K2 went through our first house, but I found it deeply spiritualizing. And I wonder about spiritual communities and groups of like-minded people in a spiritual sense um, being more prevalent and more important part of our lives during this time. And I wonder too, and we can look, Mars is going to come later in the year, and we'll get a Mars Jupiter K2 conjunction around 25 Leo towards the end of the year. And I'm like, wow, that looks like some very well advised with Jupiter there, some like wise um, sort of clearing or purging of maybe some friend groups that no longer are authentic. Maybe what we're creating isn't well received by everyone in our life, and they don't appreciate us showing up as our authentic selves. And you know, anytime the nodes go through there, there's going to be changes, for sure.
I love that you said that, because I think that is part of the Libra rising, right? Where there is this constant, and we talked about this like before, there's this people pleasing. We don't have to say people pleasing, but we could say caring, right? Where there's this like over caring that happens. And I think just in general, Libra or Libra rising, um, it can be easy to lose your authentic self because you're constantly trying to make peace or making sure everything is balanced. There's justice for everybody, that you're willing to sacrifice your own needs, right? The first house. And uh I think that with since we're still talking about Leo, but we are also kind of now shifting into the nodes. um there is this old self perhaps, or perhaps and what you said, Arin, is people might not like that we're being authentic now. That is the sun, that is the Leo, and I think Jupiter is going to amplify that, want to bring that visible for, hey, this is who I am. This is who we are, right? We're putting ourselves out there, and yeah, it may not be well received, or it may be. And maybe it's that fear of that you're not going to please everyone. That's, I think, part of that dharma, right? That life lesson where um that's how you learn or gain wisdom with yourself. And now shifting to the nodes, there is that release, right? There's that south node in Leo of release, but yet that north node in that house of joy, in the house of creativity. And so maybe there is this pull now into our creative expression and being happy. What is our joy? What really is brings joy, but that is real, right? That aligns with whether it's your beliefs or your authentic self. I know it sounds so cheesy, but it's so true. Like that's just such a
Yeah.
Leo expression, I think, right?
And with Pluto in the fifth, there's power in creativity.
Oh,
And
I love that.
I think it is a reclamation of creative power.
Yeah.
Thinking about all of this as a process, again, I my mind always goes to, well, what's happening now as a prerequisite to when we get to this, nodes across the 11th and the 5th. And my experience with the 12th, the South Node transiting the 12th for me has really been um, about curiosity and kind of like um, moving towards some curious invitations about my unconscious, about what I'm afraid of. Um, and I can't think about the South Node without thinking about the word surrender. And there's some sort of surrender happening. There's kind of just like this backward falling into through this transit as it moves through the 12th house. And I look to Mercury to kind of fine tune this. And for me, Mercury is in the ninth house. So this story has been a lot about like surrendering to my beliefs, shedding maybe some of them that I thought were serving me that might not be anymore. And really just kind of welcoming all of the discomfort that that may invite in. So I think as that kind of gestates now, that may invite in clarity as we move into the nodal shift of the authentic expression across that 11th and the 5th.
The nodes are funny like that for moving backwards through the signs, isn't it? It's just like always an
Yes.
observation. It's like we're doing
Yes.
this part first and then this, which is just not the way any other planetary bodies that we tend to track in astrology move.
I kind of like it that it's like going against the grain. I feel like it's serving everything in this magical,
Well,
mystical way.
I think it's appropriate for eclipses, because it isn't something they tend to be sort of out of the box and bring sudden changes and things that are not within our control, right? So it is just sort of this like wrench in general. And anytime we're talking about the nodes, like that's also what we're talking about is the eclipses, of course.
Mhm.
This has been a really unusual eclipse cycle too, I think. Um, because it's blended with the one before it and the one after,
Yeah.
more so than what is, sort of normal or common for eclipse cycles. Um, and here in 2026, we're going to have the last Virgo eclipse. No, the last Pisces eclipse. The last Virgo eclipse isn't until February of 2027. So that's kind of wild to think about. Um,
But yeah, we have one in March at 12 Virgo, one more, and Pisces in August. So
in Pisces in August, and then that's the
yeah.
last Pisces, but we still get another Virgo one in 2027. So it's just like so stretched out, even though the nodes will have already changed signs. So anyway, yeah, it's prolonged. I agree with you though, Marjorie, that eclipses in your 12th house do tend to remind you. I've certainly been reminded this year that I am not in charge at all. I do have two planets in the 12th, so that's somewhat familiar territory. Those planets are always falling away from the angle, right? And they remind you of those parts of life that control you versus the
Mhm.
other way around. So I think eclipses there are always an exploration of that. I have Mercury in Leo conjunct the North Node. Um, I think for me, it has been at least partially, and like it's part of the whole story around a tendency to overwork too, frankly, with the, Saturn and the North Node and the sixth. And this balance between my private time, my quiet time, because I have Jupiter there and Virgo in the 12th too. So it's like I kind of want nothing more than to be
Yeah.
left alone with my books, but that's just not the life I live at all. Not at all. Right. Not with Leo stuff in the 11th for certain,
Hmm.
including
Yeah,
Mercury and that.
that just very much resonates, right? The well, as I have a 12th house sun, so I can over appreciate my alone time and the background, right? And I've like both of you, I've experienced it very much, so a lot of unconscious, right? A lot of inner work, um and also like really reworking like my dreams, my wishes and my dreams, right? The sun obviously
Mm.
rules our 11th house, and there's been also just archetypally too, there's been a lot of release too, and um with regards to my father passed away many years ago, but it wasn't easy, and so he passed away of cancer, and so obviously with my mom going through all these things has really triggered a lot, right? So there's been a lot of that unconscious work and working with fear, and moving through it. More so, I think there's so much fear that lies in that 12th house. There's so many things that are hidden to us that the mind, right, and Mercury ruling that 12th house can really um over work it. And the South nodes there, I'm so happy they're leaving the 12th house. And um there's been a lot of like letting go of that and release. And I think that right before the nose shift, I think let me see here. On We have right before the node shift, the if you guys see the south node is going to be, let me see if I can share this. Oops. No. There's going to be a really nice trine. Share the screen. Can you guys see the
Yeah,
chart?
I see you next to the chart.
Oh
Yeah,
wait.
and it's tiny.
Yeah. I don't know how that changed. Better.
There you
Yes.
go.
Okay.
Mercury
Okay,
in the
Mercury.
trickster.
It's a little trickster. Well, thank goodness. I don't want to be there. Okay. And so there's going to be a beautiful trine, if you guys see from Chiron, because we're gonna have a shift. Chiron's shifting from Aries into Taurus, and it's going to be making a beautiful trine to that node. And I was really looking, I'm a very much a Chiron girl. I have an exact trine between my sun and Chiron. They're both at 22 degrees, 41 minutes. So I love working with Chiron. And so I try to, because he's very active in my chart all the time whenever the sun's being activated. I've been paying attention, and so I realized, oh wow, Chiron, I'm going to be going to through my Chiron return. Are you both Chiron and Taurus?
I am.
Marjorie?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, getting to start, right? But
Hmm.
with when it comes to like the nodes and the eclipses, there's this very last release that we're getting that I think it's a beautiful opportunity, a very supportive opportunity of letting go of whatever that 12th house, the nodes was doing for you, right, during this period. And we have our first eclipse, I think, February 27th. And like I think I mentioned it, I feel for us Libra risings, the first half of the year is a little quiet. I think it's great to just kind of be embracing that Pluto that we're getting, that Pluto trine to our ascendant, and that Jupiter in Cancer. But yeah, once we have that first eclipse at 28 Aquarius, the it's a new moon. So there's this I feel this nice new opportunity for healing, right? Whatever that may be, whatever we were working with, whatever unconscious, subconscious things, fears that we've been working with. Yeah.
I agree. I think
Yeah.
that eclipse is I've looked at it and yeah, so the same thing. This is about like releasing fears. Um,
There.
and for us, probably around expression and creativity.
Yeah. So I think oh look, it's right near that Saturn-Neptune conjunction too. Um that eclipse. So that's going to be a very kind of intense
Could be
eclipse
around
there.
vulnerability too. Yeah.
Mm.
Uranus in the eighth, they're square.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's that dip back into Taurus. So there's
I keep thinking like what have we not been saying? Like surrendering, with themes of the South Node and the 12th house, surrendering to allowing ourselves to become enveloped by the darkness, by whatever feelings are surfacing or being revealed to ourselves through this process of the nodal transit. But then when we get to the fifth house and this new moon in the air sign of Aquarius in the fifth house, that makes me think of creative expression. Like, what have we been suppressing? What words have we not been allowing ourselves to express? And how might we move towards that
For
through this
sure.
time period?
I think I see, I mean, and obviously it's ruled by Saturn, who is conjunct Neptune. I mean, that is like impending within the next couple of days. This one exact hit that we get of this Saturn Neptune conjunction at 0 Aries in our seventh house. So when you combine the fifth and the seventh, you think romantic partnership potentially. I think it's going to play out for a lot of Libra risings that way. And does this look like releasing fears of intimacy and closeness, square Uranus there in the eighth? Does it look like, is there a fear of commitment? Um, However, with us being Libra risings, we do tend to overgive so much. I mean, I feel like I can say that because I am one. Um, Saturn Neptune is asking us all, I think, for everyone, even people with, of other rising signs, to check in on our boundaries. Are they full of holes? And that's probably going to be the most common thing that we Libra risings encounter. Some people may encounter, may experience, oh, my boundaries are too rigid. I put up walls that served me yesteryear that no longer serve
Mhm.
me and they need to be dissolved. And Neptune's there for that. And then there will be others of us that go, oh my, I have poor boundaries. They are full of holes. I don't even know how to assert myself, in a healthy way with boundaries. And Saturn's going to demand that we learn, right? Um, and hopefully Jupiter's there also to teach us. Still exalted.
Well, I
So,
think that oh sorry.
I
Go
was
ahead.
just gonna say, and Venus is conjunct the North Node during this eclipse too. So that just sort of emphasizes the relational piece too.
Mhm.
Makes a whole
Yeah. No, and I was just gonna piggyback of like what you said that yeah, you could see that Jupiter's exaltation take form here, where when it comes to those boundaries, right? Either um there your wall is brick. It's not coming down. Or it's made out of straw, right? It's gonna be like
Mhm.
blown over. And you could see that. I think that that's one of the qualities that you see within exaltation specifically, right? And you're adding Jupiter. Um, there's that overprotective quality. And, if we're talking about Jupiter, and how it expresses itself in Cancer in its exaltation, if you think about it astronomically, right? In astronomy, the planet Jupiter and planet Earth, right? We are a planet. Sometimes I forget. No, Jupiter, if you think about, there's so many asteroids that and comets and things that, are in our solar system. And Jupiter is actually protects planet Earth from all of those hitting. So I don't know if that's, if we could say that that's a beautiful way to that it's that in Cancer, Jupiter takes that over protection, so that maybe it is that awareness that we are over protecting ourselves, right? Putting over too many boundaries, or that we need more. Um, and yeah, and with that Venus, so you point out that Venus North Node, being our chart ruler, there's something there that's going to be saying, okay, I
Yeah.
think there's this amplification putting us forward, right? Um, and I think,
I mean,
yeah,
ultimately, we have one exalted benefic trying another exalted benefic. So that's amazing in our Arta houses. So this, is about potentially about work and career and how we're showing up in the world, and how caring and sacrificial we can be also. So I think it's going to vary by person. And I just want to, I guess, encourage all of the Libras out there to check in with yourself. I think Saturn-Neptune is going to insist that we do, about what are your boundaries? What are your needs in relation to other people? Are you making sure that you and your interests are indeed protected?
hmm I have a quote written down by Becca Tarnas when she was talking about the Saturn-Neptune conjunction, or when Saturn and Neptune come together. And she had said it's about merging the ideal with the real. And I love that because it's so concise. But at the same time, for us Libra risings who are like, how's this going to be perceived? Is this going to be okay with everybody? So it's like the ideal, like these are my boundaries, these are the perimeters I want to put up. But then knowing who you're working with and what their boundaries are and maybe what they need and finding a way to merge the two and coming to a common, agreement with yourself, like, okay, this is how I want to proceed, or this feels
Mhm.
good for me right now. But they're two tricky archetypes that are not inherently, similar. So there's a lot of interesting astrology ahead with them coming together.
There is, especially in our, yeah, house of partnerships. I feel like it has the potential to be deeply confusing, potentially disillusioning, disappointing. So I don't want to gloss over that
Yeah.
possibility, that very real possibility. But I feel like I am grateful for the fact that Saturn is there and early on during what will be a 14 year transit of Neptune through my seventh house, because it's like, bring me the cold hard facts up front versus like several years of illusion. And maybe I was under some illusions with
Looking
Neptune
like a true
in
Capricorn.
Pisces here. So
yeah,
yeah.
Saturn and Aries, right? And that Aries, like, just give it to
Tell
me.
me.
Come on, just tell
Give me
me.
the bad news first.
Yeah. Well, I think that I kind of work the same way too. I want to kind of go past the Delulu, the Neptune, right? I want to just be more, the Saturn wants to just let me just prepare. Let me figure,
Yeah.
like, how am I going to navigate this, right? Um
Or
yeah.
is this just a bad idea and it's never going to work? Tell me up front.
Hmm.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
But you know what? I think in the exaltation of the sun, I think that in that Saturn Neptune, maybe perhaps a little delulu is what pushes you through those boundaries,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
Like, and yeah, that's
And I think it has, and like we talked about how incredibly benefic the sun is to Libra risings, probably especially those of us born in the day like we all were. But I think it also has the potential to bring some seriously mystical, maybe like complete magical weirdos into our lives,
Yes.
in various capacities. And, especially if you're not dating them, this could just be really fun.
Yeah.
It could be really fun to hang out with
yeah,
magical weirdos. I love me some freaks and geeks. They're my kind
yeah.
of people. So I mean, it could be that. And like as an astrologer, I'm like, maybe I'm just gonna have a lot of mystical clients coming to see me, which is
Mhm.
cool too. So I would guess it's gonna play out, on a number of different levels for us. And of course it'll be individual to us, but
Yeah.
Right.
those are some real possibilities.
Yeah, especially if you have planets there, right?
Mhm.
That's definitely going to
Yeah.
activate
Or
more.
or
But I mean,
all your
but we
cardinal stuff. Yeah.
yeah, but we will all feel it, right? Because it's gonna be it's right on the descendant opposite um our chart rule or our not chart ruler, but um our ascendant, right? So um which I think Aaron, you had mentioned about Venus in Scorpio retrograde this for
Yes.
2026 in the fall. It's,
Yes.
I don't know about you guys, but I always fear when that
Do you
Venus
dread
goes
them?
when Venus goes retrograde. So I don't, how about you guys?
Yeah, I do not love it. I feel like it can be a challenge to my health as a Venus ruled person. I often feel run down, out of sorts, confused. I think Venus retrograde generally, like archetypally, always asks us to reassess. It asks us, do you love this? Whatever this is. Is it still what you want? Is this not what you want? Would you like something else instead? And it asks us to sort of reassess our relationship with desire itself. Um, Probably especially true in Scorpio. So I was looking at this Venus retrograde, and the story really starts, I think, in at the very end of August, right after that eclipse season, which is interesting because there we get our first eclipse in Leo of that entire cycle and our last eclipse in Pisces. And those are our pair of eclipses for the summer of 2026. And directly after that eclipse in Pisces, Venus enters her shadow at about 22 Libra. At the same time, Mars is entering Cancer, and that seems way too soon.
Right?
I didn't.
Way too
Oh
soon.
yeah.
And it's like, what? Um, And so that's a flavor. And I think we have to sort of consider Mars because of where Venus is stationing, right? In Mars's sign. So I think that this is sort of part of the story. And part of what Mars is doing in Cancer is squaring Saturn right around the 13, 14 degree mark. And Venus is already in shadow at that point. She's towards the end of Libra. So then what we see happen as Venus goes, she goes into Scorpio, she gets to 8 Scorpio, conjunct Mercury, and then she stations retrograde. And in the midst of that, we've seen Mars now enter Leo and oppose Pluto. So that's exciting. Um, and then Venus stations at 8 Scorpio. So this is generally square that. So we have a fixed T square going on. And then she's going to station, and she already squared Pluto when she came into Scorpio, right? She's stationing, and she's going to go back and square Pluto. Well, first she's going to square Mars because he moves faster. So that happens around 7 degrees of Scorpio and Leo. And then she's going to go back and square Pluto again. And she's going to have her Cazimi with the sun at 0 Scorpio and eventually station direct at 22 Libra. Now, and then when she's stationing direct, which is November 15th, then we have that Mars K2 or South Node Jupiter conjunction that I mentioned at the same time. So I feel like for us, I know that's a lot of information that I just like spewed at you. I feel like for us Libra risings, a couple of things, and then I want to talk about ideas of periods to think about. for themes also for how this is going to play out for us. But with all of it's squaring all this business across that 5th, 11th axis that we talked about, Aquarius, Leo, I think it could well have to do with issues around self-worth, how we value ourselves, how we value our own time. And that running into conflict around potentially time and how much time. I could see it like time spent on your creative projects versus time spent with children versus time spent with friends. Um, and then, of course, the whole relationship of money, creativity, and the audience that you're putting it out into. Now, I don't see squares as always being problematic necessarily. They're very dynamic aspects. And with a T square, there's a lot of tension. But I'm a person who has, generally speaking anyway, a T square in my natal chart. And I am what I like to call personally effective, which means I get more done than the average bear. I
Sever
just
go
do.
stellium.
Yeah, I mean that doesn't hurt either, right? Or my Capricorn moon doesn't hurt either, and
Yeah,
that's
no.
part of my cardinal T square too. I make things happen, and that's what squares do. They pop things off. So this could be um, quite. It could be really beneficial. It could be like you're putting a lot into something and really coming out as your authentic self as Venus comes back into Libra. The other thing, when Venus comes back into Libra, now she's in a sextile with Mars and Jupiter instead of that square aspect. So I feel like there is some relief here at the
Mhm.
end of this retrograde, a refinding of ourselves, perhaps with Venus going back into domicile and Libra. And then, she's generally opposite Saturn, but she's not going to actually make that opposition again. He's way earlier in the sign
Mhm.
than she gets before she stations. And she's no longer receiving that overcoming square from Mars, nor is he her ruler when she's in her own sign. So, it's quite the dignity shift for sure. Now, let me just say a couple of things about dates to look back at, and then I want to hear your ladies' thoughts. So, first of all, Venus retrogrades always go in 8-year cycles. So, think back to 2018, around the same time of year, around like fall of 2018. What were you doing, especially around money, especially around how you value yourself, potentially around your diet and how you sustain and support yourself? Um, and then I think we can also get some good juice from looking at like right now in early November when Venus is in Scorpio and just having completed that square with Pluto in Aquarius. So, what are we doing now? And how is it supporting ourselves and how is it not? I myself found myself on Friday night after what felt like a very long week, like drinking wine, eating chocolate, and online shopping and going, what am I
I
doing?
love that.
And I'm like, this can't continue. Like, what am I doing? And I'm like, oh yeah, Venus is square Pluto. Like, yeah, treats and trinkets. I think as Venusians, we're very good at treating ourselves. And I know I use that as a balm when I'm feeling less than great. It's like, oh, I have a Taurus rising bestie. And she's always like, you gotta treat yourself. And I'm like,
Oh,
yes,
that's
girl.
funny.
Yes, girl, you do. Um, but like, where does that potentially go overboard, squaring Pluto? Where does that no longer serve us? So I think we'll see that. And then that could be part of Venus reclaiming power, going back into the first two. It could have a lot to do about our physical bodies and how what we consume, how we're sustaining ourselves.
Mhm. Yeah, Erin, that was such a great breakdown.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And my
Absolutely.
apologies that I got like really dim. It got really dark and I think it's gonna rain, so
Oh,
sorry.
Oh, no worries.
I have a reaction to ring lights, so I can't they give me migraines, so I can't use them. So I'm sorry. But yeah, I immediately was thinking about the body and the mental landscape of self-esteem and thinking back to 2018 and now what's kind of happening is I had this practice where, part of my like daily meditation was just a reminder to myself that like I am worthy, I belong. Um,
Mm.
and I was really engaged with this practice until I didn't need to say it to myself anymore. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like I grew out of it. And then, life continues and then things happen and then I'm like, "Oh, I need to use that again. I need to say that again." So just continually revisiting from the universe when it hands it to me, when I need to remember that I am worthy, I do belong, and cultivating a sense of self-esteem, especially for Libra risings when there's this passage through Scorpio, I'm finding, is the work is never done there. So always tending to
Yeah.
yourself, tending to your body, and how that affects your mind is so important too. So thank you for spelling out those dates. I appreciated that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a great breakdown as a Venus and Scorpio native here.
Yeah.
I'm actually going through my return as we speak. I have my Venus I have it at 3 degrees Scorpio. And
Oh my gosh.
yeah, so Venus
It's
is
like
at three.
there,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
And yeah, so
How amazing.
I know, right? And so having it in the second house when you said what was like your relationship to food at that time or whatever. Like my relationship to food since I was born has been an issue, good and bad. I am a huge foodie, right? But I can be picky. And I went through, I think, a 15-year span of not eating meat. I brought in fish and chicken because of health. And so I always see that as well as like my Venus in the second, but I also have a Sun Ceres conjunction in the same degree. So I think there's also something that goes in there with that. But um there's been in 2018, I think it's when I started to, no, it wasn't in 2018. I think it was probably more recent in the last 2 years where I started reintroducing beef into my diet for health reasons, obviously for training. Um, but I think that there's this to tie in to also what you were saying and what Marjorie you were saying, there is this shedding that's happening. And I feel like there's this because we talk about Pluto is in our fifth house right now, and there's so I think there's this shedding of ourselves as well. And during this Venus retrograde period in October, I think it will be um shedding like what is no longer us, accepting um new parts of ourselves, right? And when it comes to like the Scorpion and Scorpio, um it sheds its skin. Same with the snake. They shed their skin, but they don't, it's to renew themselves, right? And so there's this like also mythical myth with Inanna, right? She sheds her skin when she's in the other, not her skin, her clothes, right? And she's in the underworld. And this Venus retrograde in our second house. So there's too, like with food, what are we shedding that is no longer serving our body? What is how you know we value ourselves, how you were saying, right? Our self-worth. And I think that's something that's very Libra rising, right? Where knowing our self-worth, especially if you have Venus in the second, right? There is that connection, but more so I think because we can get lost in the other or in harmony versus what we want. I think this is we when we're tying in all of these transits that we've been talking about, I think that 2026 does kind of bring all this together with Venus, our chart ruler, going through that phase of going into the underworld. And then making sure too, uh, if Venus is your time lord that next year during this time in October, you're gonna really feel that. and looking at what other planets you have in the second house, and see where kind of these topics also kind of spread out into in your chart.
Yeah.
But yeah, you thank you for saying that. All that being the Scorpio, Venus and Scorpio timeline was great.
Mhm.
Yeah. I do like the idea of sort of tying it all back together. And I think it's worth noting um, that Mars rules our second, so Scorpio, and our seventh, Aries, where we're seeing that Saturn-Neptune conjunction. And I think the other thing to think about with Venus retrograding there, if you have a habit of abandoning your own needs for the sake of others, which is definitely, I mean, guilty as a Libra rising. I think that that's part of what's part of this bigger picture of 2026 is um, standing in our own creative power and showing up as our authentic selves, and also very clearly stating our needs and boundaries, and being firm in this, um, and sort of refusing to self-abandon. I feel like that's part of the call of the astrology of 2026 for Libra risings, and I think Jupiter is going to bring us the courage we need to do it.
Yeah,
They're in Leo.
yeah. I mean, I'm looking forward to these transits. I think that they all tie in, pretty well together. I think, like I mentioned, the first half is a little quieter, but I think that first eclipse that we talked about in February, that's going to really things up, to start moving forward for this year. Um, yeah. So I'm really looking forward to it, some more than others.
Yeah. I feel like that Saturn-Neptune conjunction is such a big deal. And on the zero Aries point, on that spring equinox point, it's like the birth of something new. Once you know what I mean? There's like, once we're there, there's no
Yeah.
looking back, really. I
Yeah.
think the rest of the year is just nothing
Right.
but bangers, as they say.
And if you remember, if we looked at really quickly, we had that eclipse is
Oh, yeah, it's so close.
it's so when we were just to kind of recap this, if you look at it, that it's at 20, the ruler is Saturn, right? And is Saturn, like you mentioned, Saturn's on a world points with conjunct Neptune. So there is that new beginning or something starting.
Mhm.
So I think something that isn't going to be easy, right? It's Saturn and he's not very happy in Aries, but there is that hard work. Saturn doesn't matter where he's at. He will, maybe it's just because I have Saturn in Libra and I'm biased, but I feel Saturn always rewards, the
You
hard
girls are
work.
cruising towards your Saturn oppositions, aren't you? I'm
Mm.
finishing mine up, and you can have it.
Yeah, Saturn's been opposing my sun. Pluto's squaring my
Yeah, that's true.
Venus.
You've been getting it either
But
way.
I feel like, that has obviously have to do with a lot with my family, with my mom and, all of that
Yeah.
fighting. But I think that fighting, whatever that Saturn, Neptune, Aries nature that's happening, right, in our chart, I think, there's just that I just keep thinking Xena warrior princess or
Mhm.
something to fight for, right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
And
like a
to that,
hopeful vision.
yeah, to that point, Erica, like we maybe have partners, important others in our life, whether it be a family member, a romantic partner, a business partner, clients that are just going through really difficult things during this time, with Saturn going through our seventh like that. And I think,
It's true.
as Libra risings, we are so naturally giving and supportive, um, that, being there for people going through difficult things is a natural to us. So I think, at least for me, I feel like the challenge is going to be not to self-abandon in the process. Um, but yeah, you're right. It is a potentially hopeful vision for the future that once we get through this difficult thing, that there's something beautiful on the other side. this inspired vision on the other side.
Yeah. Well, this was so much fun, ladies. I had such a blast, and we're an hour and 30 minutes. I didn't think that, and it's Mercury's officially stationed. Are we still recording? Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be
You
the
never
funniest.
know. Because I
We would
mean,
just have to talk again for a couple
I
of
Yeah.
know, yeah.
hours,
But I'm like,
some
gosh,
other time.
there was a lot said. I was like, I don't know if we can redo it. But again, thank you so much for being here. I would love for you, each of you, to say where we can find you.
Go ahead,
Erin.
Erin.
Yes, you can find me on my website, astrologywitharin.com. Um, Everything is there really in socials, at Astrology with Arin. I am doing a podcast collaboration with Awakening Airwaves, which you can find here on YouTube and on other podcast platforms. I write a lunar blog. I write a lot of horoscopes these days. That's part of my fifth house, ninth house activities. But yeah, connect with me on my website, and then you'll find everything else there. So thank you, Marjorie.
Awesome.
Awesome. I can tell that you're writing a lot of horoscopes because I loved how you delivered the Venus update. Thank you. You can find me online at marjoriecotrell.com. That's my website and where I blog. I have an online course on there if you wanted to download. You can sign up for my newsletter and learn about my upcoming retreats and different readings and things that I'm doing. Also, events like in my local community. So thank you so much for having us, Erica. This was amazing. And I really enjoyed spending time with my fellow Libra Risings.
Same here,
Same.
as always. That's why I'm like, let's start, rounding up and doing some Libra talk, and give the Libra Rising some, some TLC. And obviously, you guys know where to find me. You can find me here, or on my website at www. Oh my gosh, how am I just like going blank on my own website? I was,
It'll be in the show notes. Is
yeah,
it
it's
Luna
gonna be
Moon? Is that what your
that.
website is?
Yeah, it's Luna Moon Astrology.
Thank God for
Wow.
Mary. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yes, I have Mercury in the first house. So
Mercury is messing with us.
it's really messing with me. So yeah, you can find me there, or you can find me on Instagram at Erica Luna Moon. Or you can find us at Nightlight Astrology. Marjorie is no longer with us, but she's there in heart. But you can find Erin and I on Nightlight Astrology. We're just tutors. We're tutors. With Nightlight Astrology, you can find Erin at Horary, and you can find me in the year 3 counseling class. And I hope that all you guys enjoyed this small 2026 Libra talk, and we look forward to seeing you guys next time. Thanks, guys.
Bye.